All right, everybody, get ready to ditch those dusty old sales scripts because today
Oh, yeah.
we are diving deep
I love it.
into heart-powered sales and intuitive selling.
Two of my favorites.
Get ready to unlock a superpower you didn't even know you had.
This is going to be good. You know what I love about these books? They really get into, the psychology behind why people make decisions.
Okay.
It's not always logic, right? It's emotion. It's gut feeling. It's things that maybe even the client isn't totally conscious of.
Whoa. It's like having a superpower, though. I know what you're thinking.
Yeah.
And these books aren't just some gurus, random thoughts. It's like they're backed by actual neuroscience.
Real science.
Who knew emotions could be so profitable?
Right. Heart-powered sales, they lay it out. Emotionally connected customers are worth twice as much as just satisfied ones.
Really?
Think about it, loyalty, repeat business.
Wow.
It's not about just being nice, it's about being smart.
Okay, so we're talking less used car salesman and more like mind reader.
Yeah.
But how do we actually do that?
Well, that's where EQ comes in.
Emotional intelligence.
Exactly. Both books highlight this. It's not just knowing your own emotions, it's managing them and being able to read what your client's really feeling.
So I could be super hyped about a product, but if the client's feeling unsure, me being super hyped is just going to sound like noise to them.
100%. Heart-powered sales. They have this great example. Instead of bombarding someone with features, you ask a targeted question about their biggest fear related to, whatever problem your product solves.
Okay.
And suddenly you're not selling, you're connecting.
You're empathizing.
Yeah.
Powerful. Okay, but we've also got intuitive selling to get to. Is that where we break out the crystal ball?
Not quite. Though that'd be fun, wouldn't it? But this book, it breaks down what intuition actually is so well. It's not magic. It's your brain making connections based on, years of experience. Those gut feelings, that's your subconscious recognizing patterns in real time.
So it's not a crystal ball. It's my brain's been secretly training for this my whole life, but how do I use that? How do I tap into that?
So intuitive selling, they're big on micro expressions. A client might say they're not in a rush, but their foot's tapping a mile a minute.
Right.
Their body's telling a different story. Learning to read those cues, that's where the magic happens.
So are we saying less Alec Baldwin and Glenn Ross?
Definitely.
And more like Sherlock Holmes of sales, reading the tiny clues, figuring out what the client really wants.
I love that. And just like Sherlock, you've got to sharpen those observation skills. Intuitive selling, they're all about active listening. Big time.
Active listening? Wait, isn't that what we're doing right now? Just kidding. But seriously, what's that even look like in a real sales situation?
It's not just hearing the words, right? It's their tone, their body language, how long it takes them to answer a question. Even intuitive selling suggests this, mirroring their language back to them.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so if they say a problem is, quote, frustrating, you use frustrating when you're, repeating their concern back. Shows you're really with them.
That's so smart. It's like when someone does that to you in conversation, you're like, oh, they get it.
Totally. And that feeling, that being understood thing, that builds trust. Which, let's be real, trust is the foundation of any sale. And speaking of trust, heart-powered sales, they take this even further. They want salespeople to become emotion detectives.
Emotion detectives. All right, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it's about tuning into your own emotions during a conversation. You know that, not in your stomach you get sometimes.
Yeah.
That could be a sign something's off. Maybe the client's holding back, or maybe deep down it's not the right fit. Learning to read those signals, that's huge.
It's true. I feel like I do that. Ignore those little cues. We're so busy trying to close the deal, we forget there's an actual person there.
Happens to the best of us. We get in our heads, focused on targets and all that. But heart-powered sales, it reminds us. People buy from people they connect with, people they trust. And trust, that's built on emotional intelligence.
Okay, so how do we get better at this whole emotion detective thing? Is there a detective academy we can enroll in?
Both books are big on reflection. Take time to actually journal after your interactions. What went well? What felt weird? What were you feeling? The more you break down those experiences, the faster you get at recognizing the patterns while they're happening.
Right, like anything, practice makes, well, maybe not perfect, but definitely more aware.
Yeah.
But let's say we're in it, the conversation's going, and bam, we get hit with an objection. What does that look like in the intuitive, heart-centered world?
That's where it gets really fun. Heart-powered sales, they have this whole reframing. They say
Okay.
think opportunity, not obstacle when there's an objection.
I like it.
Right.
Instead of being like, here we go again, it's like, all right, time to be Sherlock Holmes.
Yes. Because a lot of times that objection, it's hiding a real need. Like they might say, price is too high. But what they mean is, I don't know if this is right for me.
So instead of me going into this whole thing about how our prices are actually competitive, I should be like, can you tell me more about why that's a concern for you specifically?
Exactly. And this is where intuitive selling would come in. Pay attention to how they answer.
Oh,
Voice get tight. Avoiding eye contact. Those little things tell a big story.
dude, I'm realizing so much I've been missing in my conversation. Like, I always thought I was a good listener, but this is next level.
We're all learning as we go, right? That's what
Yeah.
I love about these deep dives, always something new.
Yeah.
And the cool thing is, this isn't just sales advice, This is like upping your EQ, your intuition, helps you everywhere.
It's like we're not just upgrading our sales pitch, we're upgrading our whole selves. So we've covered a ton from heart-powered sales, intuitive selling. If our listeners only take away one thing, what should it be?
Don't think you have to choose between like being genuine and being successful in sales. You can be both.
I love that. Out with the old sleazy, pushy stuff, in with the human approach.
Right. Her Powered Sales talks about this, how it takes away that icky feeling some people get about sales. You're not a salesperson, you're a trusted advisor.
And intuitive selling would say being that advisor isn't about having all the answers. It's about asking the right questions,
Yes.
trusting your gut, and knowing your experience can lead you to the best solution for everyone.
It's a shift, from transactional to relational.
Totally.
Because at the end of the day, people buy from people they like, people they trust.
And that trust, that comes from real connection, which is what these books are all about. It's not a battle. It's like a dance, maybe. Both people working together to find that rhythm.
Beautifully said. And a good dance partner, an intuitive, heart-centered one. They know when to lead, when to follow, when to talk, when to just listen.
This has been eye-opening, seriously.
Yeah.
I feel like I've got a whole new toolkit for, well, everything, not just sales.
Me too. It's crazy how one topic, if you really dig in, it connects to everything else.
Speaking of digging in, before we go, I want to leave our listeners with something to think about. Both books talk about how our past experiences, they shape our intuition, right? So could we be holding ourselves back based on old patterns, old biases? Like if my gut says no to something, is it really wrong? Or am I letting the past decide? Something to chew on.
Great question. Reminds me of that quote, I think it was Zappa. A mind is like a parachute. It only works if it's open. So as you try these new approaches, stay open, stay curious. Be willing to question your own assumptions.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Until our next deep dive, everybody, happy selling.